Yes, welcome to the No State Project Live, episode 37 of the No State Project, October 4th, 2017, live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. I'm glad to be with you here. Sorry we missed the live broadcast on Saturday, but we will be live this Saturday. So whatever we do not get to today, definitely tune in for the live broadcast on Saturday. That is 1 to 4 Pacific time, 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. So definitely check that out. What we need to do here is make sure that we're getting all the tech stuff done. Hopefully there's not going to be any tech issues like we have had previously. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully the caller line will work flawlessly like it should. Actually, it was working much better yesterday where I was able to do everything on the one computer. But if the caller line again is now somehow I can't get through on a Windows machine, I don't know. I don't know what the hell the problem is. No big deal, though. We can still join me here on the big show. It's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the hashtag, 2020 with the pound sign. Gets you in. You can also instant message me on Skype at FrankRizzo3. Frank Rizzo with the number 3. And I'll bring you up on the big show. I apologize for not keeping up with the thumbnails and the show notes there for the big show. It's been just a terrible, terrible week. Let me tell you something. Let me see if I can get this. If I can get this right. I had to do a starter in a parking lot, which is usually where you have to do a starter. It's usually not in your garage where the damn thing decides to crap out. I don't know if I can get this. Maybe I can. If you can see that, you don't think that just because you're in a parking lot, if the instructions tell you this is a Honda Accord 6-cylinder, and yeah, after 180,000 miles, it's not a surprise that we would have a starter go. I hoped it was the battery because I just had to walk a half mile to get a battery, and I walked back with it. It wasn't. It was definitely the starter, or it could have been something far, far worse. So I had to walk home. I had to go pick up a starter. I had to bring it back and do that. And so I got all the gashes on my arm because I was, even though everyone will tell you, and I'm going to add my 2 cents to this, when you get in there and you're in the parking lot and it's 95 degrees and you need to get this thing done because you got all sorts of appointments and whatnot, you figure I'm not going to take the battery panel or the plate out, what the battery sits on. This would be a bad mistake if you were to do something like that. So if you're changing the starter out in an Accord and you're supposed to take the battery panel off, just do it. I know it is a pain in the neck, but it's going to go a lot easier and you won't look like, you need medical attention. So because it's 95 degrees and I'm sweating and I walk into the store and a woman was alarmed thinking I needed a first aid kit, because it looked really, really bad. The sweat with the water, with the rain, with the blood and the gut, and then the gore there. No, I was just too arrogant enough to think that I had to follow the rules and take that damn thing off, which of course is the battery panel. So, and always have a breaker bar with you. If you don't have a breaker bar, you're going to be cursing the day you ever bought a car like that. You got to have a breaker bar because there's always going to be that one bolt that, come hell or high water, you're just not going to be able to get. And here's the thing. You can't get a breaker bar on there if you don't take the battery panel out. So, yeah. Someone's saying here, wait till you break a plug grommet down in that plug hole. No, what really sucks is that for the 2007 Accords, and I don't know how many years they did this, I go to California a lot. I mean a lot. And I change the oil a lot. And I found out that to save a few pounds, they decided to use an aluminum oil pan. This is not a place to be using aluminum. I drive an Accord. I don't drive an NSX. It doesn't matter if you save a couple pounds there. So I wound up stripping that. But thank goodness when I stripped it, it did not leak. So I was able to get an oversized one in there. But to replace those things is hellaciously expensive. It's a good thing that you don't have any major repairs on these cars, because it would be a far different story. Oh, don't tell me about Coachella. I rode on the rim in Coachella, because after you come off that ridge, I had a flat tire. So I put my spare on, and my spare went flat. And I figured I don't have to go that far, because there's going to be a service center at the Walmart right there in Coachella. Well, guess what? I drive there on a rim, and they don't have one, so I had to drive. I had to drive to a dealer on I-10. Yeah, not too fun. Not too fun. But speaking of California, or try breaking a head bolt when you're talking it down. Yes, I totally understand that. That would be really bad, really bad. I don't want the whole show just to be that. So. You know, there's so much that's been going on lately, and the whole attack in Vegas on, I guess it was Sunday night. You got people screaming on both sides. Total gun confiscation on one side, and the other one screaming that Second Amendment. I have a right. You know. Well, does anybody have a Second Amendment right? Anybody? Now remember, if you claim to have a legal right to something, you bear the burden of proving that that right exists. So don't confuse your Second Amendment, the so-called Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms with the natural right of self-defense. They're not the same thing. You'll notice on the No State Project, I never, ever argue whether I have a Second Amendment right or a First Amendment right to speech, because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Remember, you bear the burden of proof there. So, are you claiming that a written instrument, no one bothered to sign, actually gives you a right to own a gun? See if we can find that here. Maybe it needs to be quoted again. You see what's happening here? I gotta run it. Can we get the damn quote, or can we get the? Give me a second here. I actually have a whole audiobook of this available. It's actually on YouTube, the YouTube there. Let's go back to no treason. For all those who think that they have a Second Amendment right or a First Amendment right, let's go back to the man. Quote a little of Sandra Spooner here on The Big Show, because that's always good. The Constitution has no inherent authority or obligation. And I got to preface this, too, by saying that this changed the course of my life. I could not believe what I was reading, and I read the whole thing that afternoon. And this is back when I had a hard copy. I couldn't just go look it up on the internet. And this is No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority, from Lysander Spooner. The Constitution has no inherent authority or obligation. It has no authority or obligation at all unless as a contract between man and man, and it does not so much as even purport to be a contract between persons now existing. It purports at most to be only a contract between persons living 80 years ago. Of course, he's writing this in 1869, I believe. And it does not so much as even purport to be a contract between, 80 years ago. Okay. And it can be supposed to have been a contract then only between persons who had already come to years of discretion so as to be competent to make reasonable and obligatory contracts. Furthermore, we know historically that only a small portion, even of the people then existing, were consulted on the subject or asked or permitted to express either their consent or dissent in any formal manner. Now, real quick, no one was given any consent whether there was going to be a government or not. That was just imposed on everybody. To get back, those persons, if any, who did give their consent formally are all dead now. Most of them have been dead 40, 50, 60, or 70 years, or as far as today, 150 years or more. And the Constitution, so far as it was their contract, died with them. They had no natural power or right to make it obligatory upon their children. It is not only plainly impossible in the nature of things that they could bind their posterity, but that they did not even attempt to bind them. That is to say, the instrument does not purport to be an agreement between anybody but, quote, the people, end quote, then existing. Nor does it either expressly or impliedly assert any right, power, or disposition on their part to bind anybody but themselves. Let us see. Its language is, we the people of the United States, that is, the people then existing in the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings and liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. I'll get to the calls in just a second. It is plain in the first place that this language as an agreement purports to only be what it most really was. That is to say, a contract between the people then existing, and of necessity binding as a contract only upon those then existing. In the second place, the language neither expresses nor implies that they had any right or power to bind their posterity to live under it. It does not say that their posterity will, shall, or must live under it. It only says, in effect, that their hopes and motives in adopting it were that it might prove useful to their posterity as well as to themselves by promoting their union, safety, tranquility, liberty, etc. So you've got a written instrument nobody bonded to sign that was imposed by a group of men and women, or men, who were forcing everyone to pay them. So how does this written instrument, nobody bothered to sign, give you a right to own a machine gun? I'm not seeing any evidence of that here. But we got a Sky call, so let's get to the phone. You've been patient. Welcome to the No State Project. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Mark. This is Tom from Missouri again.
Tom from Missouri. What do you have for us today? Good news?
Well, yeah, good news always. No, I just wanted to call you and tell you that I have a judgment that said that I used your stuff, and it said, no prosecu, is it? How you pronounce that? No prosecution or something? It was...
Nolo prosequi.
Yeah. And I used your stuff on that to get that dismissed.
Oh, excellent.
So what they were going to do is they had a charge on me, and I was in jail for 2 weeks. And
Jeez.
While I was in jail, I wrote that while I was in jail and sent it out to the courts through the mail. Somehow it got through, I guess. And then a couple weeks later, and this didn't cost me anything either. I don't understand where you're coming from, where I put in 40 or 50 different things, and it's never cost me a dime.
Well, it depends on what you're doing and what the circumstances are. There are going to be some filing fees due if you file a petition for a writ because it's an original action. If you file an appeal, they will almost always, unless you have it deferred, want a payment, or they want an appeal bond to cover. So those are the only fees that I remember talking about.
The only payments I made, and this is probably how they got me, is by the lawyers that they forced on me to get out. Yeah, I paid the lawyers quite a bit of money. So
well, that sucks.
I did file all those. I filed quite a few of them. And for me to get out, it cost me $7,000. So, yeah, I paid for the crap.
Well, don't discuss numbers. I always hate hearing that.
Yeah, I don't want to discuss anything except what happened. They've taken my dogs from me. I had puppies and a couple other dogs. They were just mutts, like, they were friendly dogs. And I've got pictures of my dogs and stuff. They took my dogs. They took my cars, 6 cars of mine.
Jeez.
Yeah, they tore me up. And I had 20 U.S. Marshals show up at my house. I was ready for them. As soon as they got here, I walked outside. They're jumping and running over the fences and through everybody's yard and up through the woods and everything to my house. And I was outside smiling at them. They were acting so stupid. They had the door jammer thing. They had all their glass in front of them. They were wearing their fatigues and everything. Like I said, I've really gotten shafted for the past 17 years really bad, and they're getting ready to really dump on me. And I'm just afraid that, they're really going to do that. You said something about filing in the federal court. And, everything I've tried to do, Mark, it's done me no good. They've just slapped me to hell. I mean, I've been in jail a total of, when it first started, I did 15 days shock on the weekends. Well, that was sweet of them. So then 8 years later, they wanted me to do 30 days, and I fought that. And I got out of that by just having to do probation for, I don't know, a year or two. I didn't have to report or anything. They just gave me probation. And now it's gotten to the point where there's no bond on me. If there is a bond, it's $25,000 or more. And then when somebody tries to help me, it's put to where no bond. We changed it. You can't give $25,000 to get them out now. But they really got me bad. But
what about the nolo prosequi? I thought the prosecutor would wanted to dismiss.
Well, yeah, they charged me. They charged me with. They just made something up, Mark, actually I went to court. I was going to go to court, and my mom was with me. I got to court. What did they do? They came right up to me. They put the handcuffs on me in front of my mom. Luckily, I had the paperwork that that I'm talking about. I've learned from you and stuff. I had that. I gave it to my mom, and she went straight to the place to give them. I can't think of all them names to give them the paperwork. She gave them the paperwork, and then a week later, I got out. Yeah. What do you want about that? What do you want to know about that? Nole prosecu or something. They use it was a different language. What is it? Latin or something, or Spanish?
Well, it's Latin, and it just means they're saying no to prosecuting you. They're not going to prosecute you. They've based some. They'll usually say in the interest of justice, they will not seek prosecution.
I got that when I made my appeal. I went to the appeals court to make an appeal. Didn't cost me a dime. I went in there and I made my appeal when that one judge told me to shut up. So I went in there and appealed that right away. Well, that's when they put another warrant out for me. They put 2 of them. First, I paid to get out. They didn't like that. They came to my house. The cops did. The officer and the cop came. And I had the paperwork. I said, here, I paid to get out. And they were, oh, cool. It wasn't cool. They were ignorant. They went down there and had the prosecutor write up a no bond on me then and put out another warrant for me. Right away. It didn't take no time at all. They did it right away.
What the hell was the warrant for if it's an issue that's up on appeal?
Well, because I made bond, I made bond, and they didn't like that. They didn't like me making bond on a charge that they gave me, the nole prosecu. That was what it was for. Then they came in with the no bond. That's what I'm saying. This went in a circle like that, and then they just decided, well, we're not going to prosecute it. So that's what I understand that means, nole prosecu.
Yeah.
That must mean we're not going to prosecute. Yeah, that's what they did to me.
This is a hell of a way to troll somebody.
Yeah, and they've strapped on straps on me. I've got ankle straps on me twice. Well, the one time I got off, I was free to go anywhere I wanted. Now they've have one on me for a year already. They're saying I'm going to be on it for 2.5 more years.
Well, if it's been dismissed, I mean, did the judge grant the nolo prosequi?
Yeah, I got the paperwork and everything. I've got that paper right in front of me. I'm outside talking to you though, but it's on the table in there, and I've got it right here. I mean, yeah, I was released. It was like, no, don't even come to court. It's done. It's over with, right?
Okay, so after this, they issued a warrant?
No. I got two warrants for. first they issued the one, and I went down and paid it. And then they turned around and said, okay, now you're coming back to jail. Well, you're not getting a warrant this time. There's no bond on you. You can't get out. So I sat there for a week. And then after it went through the courts and I had to make my visits there, which I didn't have to make any. They didn't make me visit for a couple of months. And then they said, we're dismissing it.
You know, and so is everything dropped now?
No, I've got that thing on my leg.
So even though they filed a motion, they filed to dismiss, the judge granted it, you still have a device on your leg.
Yeah, for another charge.
For another charge.
What they did was they let a different county put another charge on me is what they done, the same exact thing. And then I went to jail and I was in there I stayed in there for 55 days just for spite, Mark. And I told nobody to get me out, leave me alone. But they put on there $25,000 cash bond only. Somebody tried to get me out, and I told them no, not to do it. But they tried to get me out, they said they changed it. They went from that back to no bond, and then after they tried it, then it went back to $25,000 cash only. So they kept switching it on them so nobody could do anything.
Yeah, this is why I probably mentioned that your only venue left to get some kind of remedy here would have to get it out of the Missouri courts and file something in the federal court for, you know. And
so that federal court wouldn't be in Missouri, right?
It
would be in Missouri. That would be.
It would be, but it wouldn't be.
It would be in Missouri. So I'd have one criminal from one section of the state to the other criminal. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know, it's not.
That's why I said it might be the only option you have. I'm not saying it's.
You're right. It is the only option I have. What other option do I have? Well, they've got me in treatment right now. So I'm getting a psychological evaluation, and I'm getting a some other deal that I got to take for treatment. So you know, now they're whipping that crap on me. And this was all whipped on me 20 years ago. I've already went through it. The court order said, you know, it's been finished, you're done, you're out 20 years ago. But now they're saying you got to do it again because you didn't complete the first time.
Wow. This and try to. I know you're in the hot seat here, but we got to bring down. I think you're talking a little too fast for everyone to make sense of.
Yeah, well, I don't have much time though, Mark. I really don't, and I'm trying to keep my wits about me. I mean, this has really torn me up, and you know, I mean, it's gut wrenching and everything. I mean, it almost makes you sick. And I'm trying to tell people that, you know, hey, look what they're doing and everything, and they're saying, oh, don't worry about it. You go ahead, just do what they tell you to do, and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I didn't do anything, so why am I not fighting this? I'm going to fight these people tooth and nail. I didn't do anything. But I did put all those things in the court, and that's like, you know, like you said, you can't do that because they don't like you doing that by yourself without a lawyer. So I did all that by myself. I got that dismissed with your stuff and put it in there, but I did it with my paper. I just did it with the knowledge that I've learned from you and a bunch of other people. I just used parts of it, but mostly I didn't have much to write because you don't have nothing in when you're in jail. You're lucky if you got a pencil. So I did the best I could in there, and I got a stamp, luckily, in an envelope and stuff, and was able to get that out there the day before I got released.
Well, that's why, you know, we keep things simple. It's great that things are kept simple, because when you're in jail and you don't have much to write with, you don't have much, you know, you may even have to do, hey, people have done habeas corpus petitions on toilet paper because the scumbags. That's what I gave my mom before I went in. I gave her 3 of them. I gave her a habeas corpus before I went in. I gave her 2 other ones. I don't know exactly what they were, something about jurisdiction and that. I put all 3 of them on there. 3 papers, 3 different writs and notices. I gave them to her, and she went down and filed all of those there. So I was only there a week. I didn't stay there very long, and they released me. Geez, even a week, that's awful.
Oh, yeah, it is. 2 seconds in there is awful. Just for the fact that you're doing what they're making you do, not anybody else. I'm just saying that, you know, you're under their gun. You got a pistol aimed at your head practically, and you do what they tell you to do, or you're going to get the shit beat out of you by them.
Yeah, well, that's why we want to keep things simple. So if you're in jail and you have to do it on toilet paper, you do your petition for writ of habeas corpus based on a lack of evidence proving jurisdiction. That's always the big one. Everything stems from that. So you don't worry that you can't put legal citations in there. The habeas corpus is so well known. It's not some obscure citation, and if you're in jail,
it took them a whole week to get me out, though. I mean, I put that in. My mom put that in as soon as they handcuffed me and took me to jail. She went straight to the clerk, handed her those papers, and I made copies of all of them. I got copies of all the stuff that I've ever put in there, so I've got copies of it. And I also I did put it on regular mail, and when they didn't answer, I have to put it in there 3 times in some of these cases and have it registered or certified, either one. And finally on the third one, usually on the third one, they would get it because then they would write it in there and I'd see it. But they wouldn't put what I put down there. They'd just say I responded, which was a bunch of shit. I didn't respond. I put in there that you guys didn't tell me anything about, that you had jurisdiction or anything. They don't have any evidence on me, Mark, none of any sort, any kind. They don't have DNA, they don't have fingerprints, they don't have guns or anything. I didn't do anything like that, but I'm just saying they have no evidence on me whatsoever. The only thing they have, Mark, is their cops saying shit about me. That's all they have. And the reports are like 20 and 30 pages long, and the cops, they're saying shit about me, and that's what they're going on. They're not going on that somebody else got hurt or injured. No, they're not going on nothing like that. It's all their people.
So where does this other case sit now? Are you in pretrial? Do you have a trial date set?
No, it's already finished, but what happened was somebody said something to me. I got out. Somebody said something to me. Oh, she said that, can you think you can do this treatment and stuff? And I said, well, I have to. I don't have no other choice. And she shook her head. And, you just want to knock her in the head because she was a lady lawyer. And, she got me out of there. That was the 55 days I stayed in there. She finally got me out. I didn't want it. I told my brother I didn't want him. I said, I wish you would have never got her. I said, I had only a few more. See, I didn't see. That's another thing, Mark. I was in 55 days. Not one time did I see a judge. Everybody was saying, you must have a special case because we were seeing, everybody in here seeing a judge every 3 days or something. They're seeing a judge twice. You haven't seen a judge once, and you've been here for all these days, a month, and it just kept on going and going and going. So I was there 55 days, never got to see a judge ever one time.
Why were the other people seeing the judges?
Oh, everybody in there had seen the judge. I mean, they were coming in and out of, you'd be out there in the area where everybody goes all day long, and you're talking to them. They're going, what the hell? You're not seeing a judge. We've all seen our judge already. We already got our lawyers in here, and we're getting released and all. I mean, they're telling me all the good news, and I'm just sitting there. I'm just sitting there. Nobody comes to me and says, hey, you're going to see a judge today. Never. For 55 days, I was in there.
What is the original or some of the original charges, the underlying charges here?
Stalking.
That's right. That's what
her. And then the indecent exposure, which was a lie. He lied. And it says on the copy that I went and got a police report. And I got a copy of it. And he said I trespassed and an indecent exposure. And he also put on there no evidence. I mean, he checked that, Mark, right there, no evidence.
He actually checked no evidence.
Yes, it was checked. Yeah, and when I went in there for that was the early stages of it 17 years ago, and the one cop that I was in there that was processing me was shaking her head, and she was disgusted because that was like the second time I was in there in a week's time. He took 3 days to get me back in there and was the same cop. And she found my paper was in the trash can, too. Somebody had thrown the damn thing in the trash can, so they delayed me getting out of there, getting processed. It took like 5 or 6 hours to process me.
I keep getting back. You're probably going to have, you have no remedy in the state courts. You're probably going to have to, you've exhausted that. It's a matter of filing something in the federal court to stop these people.
Well, and when I was doing all of this, when I started studying with you guys and listening to everybody and trying to gather as much as knowledge as I could on it, I didn't realize that, Adam Kokesh was doing what he was doing, and he was being bombarded by all these people coming in throwing grenades in his house and stuff. You've heard about that, right?
No.
When the marshals came to his house, he said that they came in and they threw grenades in, and everybody hit the floor, and they had all their weapons drawn.
That's right, for that D.C. weapons charge. Okay, I remember that now.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I was picking up on all that stuff, but see, I didn't hear about that until after all my damage was already done, and I didn't realize that people were doing the same damn thing I was doing, having that many problems with these people. I didn't think I was good. I thought that I was going in there on the good side, that the judge was going to be, oh, God, these people are treating him pretty bad. We're going to let him go. I thought it was that way, but that's not how it works. I realize that now. There ain't nothing but a bunch of criminals in there, all of them. Even, I don't care. I've asked the Supreme Court even. I've sent shit to them, and they're just as jerky. Oh, yeah, get you a lawyer. Hire you a lawyer, they said. They sent all my stuff back and said hire a lawyer. But I was on my way to jail already. That's when they handcuffed me in court that day. I went ahead and sent a notice to them right away. I said, by the time you get this and read it, I'm probably going to be in jail. Well, I was right. I was in jail.
Well, I know you've mentioned about 20 years, these charges of stalking, when were you formally charged with that?
I would say in 90, I'm going to think 98 possibly, 98.
They are still trying to prosecute you on the 98 charges?
No, I went down there, Mark. I got that one dismissed by just walking in there myself and telling him, I told the judge, I'm here to tell the truth. Whoa, they didn't like that. He dismissed.
Well, that's why I was asking you, the charges that you have right now that you have in the other county that you're wearing a bracelet for, what are those charges?
Indecent exposure. They got me on, I'm registered.
Okay, so
everything I do, they can get me for loitering anywhere, anytime, any place. So that's what they do. Most of them are all loitering charges. The last 4 have been loitering charges.
But this particular one is indecent exposure again?
Yeah. Well, no. It's just something they said. The officer would just say, well, he did this or he did that. And I don't want to be specific because I don't want anybody to pick up on what's going on. And they probably could trace the call on that. I know that. But I don't want to be specific. And I can give you specifics in a different way. I can get it to you in a different way. And I will. But... yeah, I don't want to be specific.
Okay, that's fine. When were you? And when were you charged? When was this latest charge? When did that happen?
Okay, I've been out for. This is going to be a year and 2 months now with this thing on my ankle. So I've been out for a year and 2 months, but I stayed in jail for 55 days before that, and I got a loitering charge on me there.
And so 14 months. Obviously, you have. Grounds
but the officer lied, and he added to it, so it made it more of a criminal charge, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay,
so he just added to it and said I did something else.
Okay, but you're looking at a denial of speedy trial if you haven't asked for a continuance in those 14 months.
Oh, and every time I've put my paperwork in, I want a trial. I've made that specific, and I put it and outlined it and everything, Mark. Every time I wanted a trial. Then even the judge, when I went in to get the trial, told me to shut my mouth. So, yeah, every time I walked in that courtroom, I've had my paperwork in there and said, I want a trial.
Why would you say you want a trial instead of asking for the prosecutor as evidence?
Well, I mean, just so they know. Just so they know that I want a trial. Yeah, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do and say, well, yeah, where is your evidence that you have jurisdiction over me? Yeah, I was going in there to do that. Well, that's what they were afraid of. That's why they told me to shut my mouth. That's why they closed all the doors. That's why nobody was in there. That's why they scheduled me for that day.
Did you try using the unsigned? Did you try using the unsigned plea of guilty?
Well, I went ahead and plead guilty.
No. It's we use.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No.
Well, because then at least
that at that time.
Because then it's pretty bad if you're. And they tend to do this, which is why we have it in writing. If you're trying to plead guilty, you just want to know if the prosecution has met their burden to this point, which they are supposed to do, and the judge is telling you to shut up. So
and I've asked for discovery, too. I've asked for discovery every time. I haven't asked for the Brady because I didn't know about that until now. But I'm learning. But every time though I asked for discovery, everything. I put down everything. I mentioned everything that they possibly could have for discovery. They never sent me anything, Mark, except the paperwork that I had signed from them, which was bullcrap. There was nothing there to discover. I mean, there was no fingerprints, no evidence. There was nothing there, Mark. It was their bullshit paperwork.
It's he said, she said kind of thing with the police officer.
No, it wasn't even that, Mark. It was just things I had to sign for them. Here, you want to do this? You need to sign this paper here. It wasn't he said, she said, or anything. It was stupid. It was the stupidest discovery I've ever seen in my life. They have never given me any kind of evidence that I did anything.
Okay, what I'm saying is it's a he said, she said because there's no evidence. It's just something the cop said.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, you haven't asked for a continuance in these 14 months, have you?
Man, I can't hardly move around. I mean, I'm afraid I'm going to get my hands chopped off or something, or they're going to come in and they're going to unload on me with guns. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid is going to happen next. I don't want to die.
Oh, okay, but Tom, that's not... What I'm asking is, did you ask for a continuance at any time during those 14 months?
Oh, yeah. When that guy said he's going to throw me in jail, before he even said that, I said, I need more time. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I asked him right there. I said, I need more time because I don't have all of my material from one of your lawyers. I said, he has not sent me the paperwork yet. I said, I wrote him for the paperwork.
Do you realize that, and for everyone listening, that if the prosecutor does not give you the discovery, you have absolutely no business asking for more time. You should be asking for dismissal and sanctions against the prosecutor. You never, ever, anybody, you never ask for more time unless you need more time and you don't mind waiving speedy trial rights. Because here, if you hadn't done that, you were looking at a denial of speedy trial, and that would have been grounds to have this thing tossed out. But we got to cross that right off there. We never asked for more time because the prosecutor... I remember there was a judge thought a defense attorney was out of his mind. Because the prosecutor asked the judge, he said, Your Honor, if you will ask defense counsel to allow us more time to get the discovery back, we can get it back by such and such a day. And the judge says, I don't think I should be asking him that. And he says, Counsel, do you really, do you really want to give the prosecution more? Yeah, we'll give them more. And I had to talk to the poor defendant after. I said, do you realize the judge was trying to help? Your lawyer just screwed you. And he screwed you twice because you paid him for it. You do not give the prosecutor... I can't say that emphatically enough. You do not give the prosecutor additional time. You don't waive any rights. Any so-called rights that you're supposed to have. So, all right. Well, that was unfortunate. So you're really behind the 8 ball. So, do you have a trial set for this matter?
No, as long as I complete my treatment and I do what they say. And so far, they're threatening me now. They're already threatening me now that I'm not completing it and I'm not doing it right and I'm not obeying them. So they're getting ready to, put the axe down on me. So
did you give me a court date in that? So is there a trial date set?
No, that's all over with. It's all over with. The lawyer came out a year in August. It was a year in August. It came out and said that, can you make this treatment? Can you do this? And I said, well, I don't have any choice. And she shook her head, yeah. And I shouldn't have said that, but I'm in for 55 days. I'm pretty well worn out by then. And really don't know what to say. I'm the whole time I'm in there, I'm going through my motions and everything, and I kept telling the people that were coming to see me, which would be the probation officers, would come and see me and have something and say, well, do you want your rights waived for a hearing on your probation or something? And I'd say, no, I want a hearing. And I never even got that. And also, the judge never signed the the deal that I had to take treatment. Never signed it. It was not signed by the judge, but she had a copy of it that was. And I said, yeah, I never received one. And I got a blank one.
Tom, there's just so many working parts going on here. It's getting very difficult to follow. Did you have a trial already?
Mark, I've never had a trial. I've had hearings, but never had a trial.
No, all right. So you have no trial date that's been set yet.
No, I've never had it. I've never had a trial.
Okay. So
they've all been hearings.
I would look into doing, I hate to say it, a federal action for due process violations and file a motion to stay the state court proceedings and see if you can get somewhere with that. This is
and I did that with the appeals court as soon as they did that to me before, and I thought, well, I'll just go to the appeals court right away 3 days later and get there right away and tell them I want to appeal with this guy telling me to shut up. And I put in, a violation of all the violations he did to me in there.
Yeah, but Tom, that's not... the thing is, the state appeals court or any appeals court can only take an appeal after there's a final appealable order. Telling you to shut up is not a final appealable order. If you filed a motion to change the judge and that was denied, then yes, that decision is appealable. You can get an interlocutory appeal or petition for a writ. But other than that, no, you can't maintain the appeal under those conditions. Unfortunately, there are certain rules that we have to follow.
And nothing else. I mean, I put in stuff like that they never had any evidence on me and other things that I put in there, violations of other violations.
Well, you have all these Brady violations, the discovery violations, but from...
Yeah, I put that in there. No discovery, the violation of discovery, violation of all. I put about 7 or 8 different violations in there, Mark.
But if you did it as an appeal and it wasn't the proper time to appeal, obviously that's the why it's not being considered. They're not going to consider non-appealable issues at this time. You have to have a trial first, other than for the other issues, like I was saying, of a denial of a motion to change the judge.
How is a person like myself supposed to know stuff like that? I'm not a law professor or anything. How are we supposed to know stuff like that? I mean, we're getting screwed all the way around.
Well,
if you hire a lawyer, he wants $10,000.
Well, you can watch a few YouTube videos, or just even on my wiki page, there's plenty. There's thousands of other websites that you can get the information on where you can take an appeal or when an appeal is appropriate. You can go right into the local rules there in Missouri, and it'll explain it right there what a final appealable order is. And if it's not clear, that they'll tell you it has to be a final appealable order that's given after a trial usually. And if it's not clear enough, you can always just do a Google search for final appealable order in court, and you can find some articles that will explain that. But yes, it's a very convoluted system, especially the appellate process. And I've had things thrown out by the U.S. Supreme Court because the rules changed and I wasn't aware of it, because they change like every 6 months. And there are other changes law firms probably keep people on staff just to go over the changes in the rules every year, because they change constantly. I actually had an appeal which is going back 15, 16 years ago at least, and I did not file the brief apparently in time, and I get a notification. Well, let me finish. I get a notification from the trial court that I didn't file my brief, and that the appeal was closed. I'm like, so because I didn't know at the time that they changed the rules, that the traffic appeals in Arizona, the briefs are filed with the trial court, and then it's transmitted up to the. So these are things yes, it sucks. We have, and it's worse in a situation like you're talking about, because you're doing time. But while you're out, this is when we have to educate ourselves on these aspects of the legal system. It sucks. I don't like to do it, but we don't have a choice. We are forced into these situations, and we have to learn somewhat how their rules work and how the system works, so that we can effectively defend ourselves and limit the amount of damage these predators want to do to us. So I'm going to have to go. But I do appreciate the call. This is something that's more appropriate when we do off air, because it's too much information for a very short broadcast, and it's just
and
all over.
I can't give you the details either. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so I do appreciate it, but
follow the direction.
Follow what look into what I was saying, and contact me off air if you need to about trying to file something in the federal court to stop them.
Okay, and that phone number is your business number, right? Or no?
Well, the number that I have on the website is a business number, but it's not to just call me out of the blue. You always contact me on instant message on Skype or email first, or if we set an appointment.
I know where that's at. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate the call, Tom. I know that is
thanks.
Just a god awful mess there, just terrible. So, wow. I know we're getting into. I'm looking at the chat, and I don't. Oh, yeah. This. Okay, I don't even want to get into that kind of crap. Secured creditor stuff. If there's evidence for it, then present it. But don't tell me to watch a YouTube video unless the evidence is in the YouTube video, like I do. So, and I do have to get the federal one that was tossed out recently that I mentioned on the last show. But I do, when we do have something that someone got it tossed out, I post the evidence in the actual YouTube video. I would never say to somebody, if you want to see the evidence of how this works, to just have someone talking about it. If you're saying that there's somebody, got something from the FBI, there's evidence of that. Just going over the tactic is not evidence. I mean, I can talk about the Socratic method and I can say how we've gotten things tossed out. That's not proof that it's gotten tossed out, though. The proof that it got tossed out is when you go to markstevens.net and under these success stories, and you see the actual documents from the court that are posted. That's the actual proof. Not a 2-hour YouTube video of someone talking about how it got. Show me the actual proof from if the FBI is doing this, or if the birth certificate is being traded on the stock exchange. Oy vey here. There's a paper trail. Let me see the evidence. Yeah, I know. I know. I get it. I get it. They're not going to show the evidence of the claim. Yeah, that's the thing. I show the evidence of the claim, and I get a few people to come out and cherry pick and say it's not what it says. It's even though the judge writes he's granting the motion, it had nothing to do with the motion. It was only because he was pissed off at the prosecutor for not taking him seriously, even though he responded saying the motion had no merit, which is exactly what the critics say. So the prosecutor is mimicking the critics. Ay. Okay. In the last few minutes we got left here on the big show, I want to get back to the Spooner issue. And I've even said myself, as a matter of self-defense, my owning a gun and not owning a gun or having a gun boils down to who wants to initiate violence against me to get the gun. But when you look at what happened in Vegas, what if you've got someone in the neighborhood who's stockpiling high-powered rifles, who could kill and wound 50 people and over 500 people wounded in just a few minutes? Yeah, but the number of shootings that go on in the United States every single day, whether it's a handgun or a machine gun or a rifle, there are shootings every day. I know we laugh about it. There was one thing, it was, Chicago, come for the pizza, stay because you're dead. And how deadly it is. Gun violence is absolutely a problem. But, I'm not saying I want government to do this or that, but when you say that banning guns doesn't work, when you've got an example like Australia, that since they banned guns 20 years ago, there have been no mass shootings. So... Not saying I want government because, hey, I'm reading Spooner. But to turn around and say that if they did the same thing as Australia did, that there would still be mass shootings, I don't know. I don't see that. I know I'm getting tired of hearing about it. I don't give a damn what the motivations were for the mass shooting. I'm tired of hearing about it. It's so common. I think there were several hundred mass shootings just this year already, practically one a day. And that's 4 or more people shot or wounded for it to be a mass shooting. There's a serious violence problem in the United States and in most cultures because it's based on a foundation of violence. It's normalized. It's normal to have 2 million people in prison and have all those families decimated and destroyed. It's normal to have prosecutors withhold exculpatory evidence. Brady violations are at an epidemic level. It's normalized. And people want to just turn around and shut an argument down by saying, Second Amendment. Really? Show me one single piece of evidence that shows that you have a Second Amendment right to anything. That doesn't mean I don't think you have a right to defend yourself and have a gun. But saying Second Amendment doesn't shut down the argument. It's not an argument. You cannot prove you have Second Amendment or First Amendment rights. You can't even prove you have due process rights. Why? Because it's just a written instrument no one bothered to sign. It's nothing more than public relations by men and women who force us to pay them. So getting back to what Spooner wrote, again, this is Lysander Spooner, The Constitution of No Authority. And that first paragraph that I read earlier in the broadcast just blew me away. I just couldn't believe it. I can almost recite the whole first paragraph off the top of my head. Suppose an agreement were entered into in this form. We, the people of Boston, agree to maintain a fort on Governor's Island and protect ourselves and our posterity against invasions. This agreement, as an agreement, would clearly bind nobody but the people then existing. Secondly, it would assert no right, power, or disposition on their part to compel their posterity to maintain such a fort. I like when it goes down here. And he says, well, when a man says he is building a house for himself and his posterity, he does not mean to be understood as saying that he has any thought of binding them, nor is it to be inferred that he is so foolish as to imagine that he has any right or power to bind them to live in it. So far as they are concerned, he only means to be understood as saying that his hopes and motives in building it are that they, or at least some of them, may find it for their happiness to live in it. Same as when a man says he's planting a tree for himself and his posterity. If you haven't read Lysander Spooner's No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority, I cannot recommend this enough. So anybody says, again, I'm not saying I want government to ban anything except themselves. You know that. But to have somebody try to shut down an argument that says, I have a Second Amendment right to own whatever effing gun I want. Hold up. That's a positive claim. You bear the burden to prove. Where's your evidence that this written instrument nobody bothered to sign, who are all dead now, who were just rich white property owners, forcing everyone to pay them? And that's another thing, too. Where did they get these huge tracts of property? Oh, that's right, they got royal charters from King George himself. Yes, they were so against the idea of a monarchy that did they give the land back? Oh, and when they had those huge land grants from old George, and when that wasn't enough, did they expand on that? Yes, the War of Independence was a war of expansion. They started right at the beginning, 1775. Killed up their natives. Oh, because they don't have the concept of property. It's okay to slaughter them. And no, I'm not taking that out of context. Ayn Rand actually wrote and said that. I think there's a video of her actually saying that. They didn't have the concept, the Western concept of property. It was okay to take it from them. Yes, violence is okay if someone doesn't subscribe to your concept of property. Unbelievable. This idea that the Second Amendment allows you to have an arsenal that would enable one person to kill 50 people in just a few minutes. And if you think for a second those people called government are going to be stopped by your machine guns or your weapons, your stockpile, it's 2017. Do I really need to explain that you're not going to stop them if they really wanted to take over, if they really wanted to lock down and have martial law, that you'd have no way to stop them? Oh, that's right, because the Americans are now suddenly like the Afghani people who are willing to fight all invaders until the last blood is shed, the last drop of blood is shed. Yeah. Yeah. Don't see that happening. Don't see that happening at all. But I highly recommend getting back into and rereading Lysanne Spooner, or reading it again for the first time if you have not read this. Because what I love at the end here is, after all that explaining, and he does a great job here, but he brings it back to one fantastic summary. Inasmuch as the Constitution was never signed nor agreed to by anybody as a contract, and therefore never bound anybody, is now binding upon nobody, and is moreover such an one as no people can ever hereafter be expected to consent to, except as they may be forced to do so at the point of the bayonet, it is perhaps of no importance what its true legal meaning as a contract is. Nevertheless, the writer thinks it's proper to say that, in his opinion, the Constitution is no such instrument as it has generally been assumed to be. But by false interpretations, naked usurpations, the government has been made in practice a very widely and almost wholly different thing from what the Constitution itself purports to authorize. He has therefore written much, and could write much more, to prove that such is the truth. And here you go. But whether the Constitution really be one thing or another, this much is certain, that it has either authorized such a government as we have had, or has been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist. My gosh. That. Wow. Here you go. Yeah, and I want to point. I know people are going to get into all these arguments and disagreements, saying, "Well, why would you ban all guns? I mean, cars kill a lot of people every year too. We don't ban them. Cars aren't typically used to intentionally kill people. Cars have more than one function. Guns have two functions: self-defense and killing." Aggressive, okay? Murder. Airplanes. Somebody really... Airplanes. Yes, because airplanes have always been used as weapons. I don't know. What I can say for sure, anybody makes a claim that the Second Amendment gives them a right to own a gun, they're absolutely dead wrong. And if you disagree that the Second Amendment does give you a right to own a gun, any kind of gun, call the broadcast. We're live this Saturday. Present your evidence. I'd love to see it. Again, I fully agree that we have a right to self-defense. Does that self-defense then include having an arsenal that you can wipe out dozens and dozens of people, and to wound hundreds? And that's why it's important to knock down that main pillar of argument, that the Second Amendment gives you the right to do X, Y, Z. First Amendment doesn't give me a right. First Amendment doesn't protect any of my rights if I have any natural rights. My right, let's say my free speech. First Amendment doesn't protect that. I do. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous to hold otherwise. That a group of men and women that force everyone to pay them is there to protect you. It's ridiculous. Can the Constitution stop a bullet? Yeah, I didn't think so. Can the Constitution stop a police officer from beating the living hell out of me? Nope. Didn't stop him from assaulting me. Didn't from sexually assaulting me. Didn't stop him at all. So, again, this has been episode 37 of the No State Project, October 4th, 2017. I'm glad to be with you here today. We will be live this Saturday, and for 2 weeks from Saturday, looking at doing the show live from Oceanside in California and having a blues jam after that. So I'm going to be in California anyway, so if it works out, it's not set in stone yet, everybody. But the Living Tea, I can't remember the whole name. I'm really sorry about that, Bill. But I mentioned them all on the show before. But even if we don't get to do the show live from there on the 13th or 14th, I forget which day it is, we will certainly be having a jam session after that. And that's really what's more important anyway. So, but hey, if once we have it set in stone, I will let everybody know. I'll announce it on the show, and we'll post it at markstevens.net so that if you are in Southern California, you may be able to come out for a live broadcast and participate in that, and participate in our blues jam, which I'm going to bring my bass and the guitar, so I'll be playing both, so it should be a lot of fun. Again, my name is Mark Stevens. This has been episode 37 of the No State Project here on my YouTube channel, No State Project. So till next time, salud.